Welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in the Par 5 card spread. First two cards we are starting our day off with today are our Three of Cups in its upright in combination with our Lover's card. Now, what did we talk about yesterday that was occurring for a lot of the energy? Deep within, like across the frequencies, we see that during the Scorpio season, a lot of this work that we're navigating in relationality to transformation, it's a difficult process. Identifying and recognizing what is within the self to change versus what is outside the self. A lot of that work during Scorpio season has to do with that uncovering, has to do with that process. These journeys are difficult. But in the space or place of recognizing and understanding what those energetic hurdles are, it allows new pathways to open up as it relates to solutions. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union right now, this is a lot of that energy that we see that is continuing to occur in relationality to continuing and maintaining energetic balance. What have we been talking about? What have we been seeing in the cards over the last few days? Masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, both feeling a little bit of that energetic imbalance, right? Both recognizing Monday's read, very difficult, a lot of that energy in deficit. But when we are working with counterpart energy, do we amplify that feeling of energetic deficit that we're feeling? Absolutely not. We're able to find things within ourselves. We're able to generate them forward, parts of the self that we didn't even know were there, like the reserve energy, if you will. That ability of doing so, bringing that forward. We see even now a lot of that energy working in that state or space of being energetically positive, creating that positivity within the self, because for a lot of that energy, being able to do so is the amplification of the energetic equivalent of being able to work in that facet of love that builds into that sense of energetic support. It's not easy. Right? It's not easy because we were speaking a lot this week about having to work in that sensor space of being one's own flashlight. But when we're working with the energy of the counterpart, that's when we're almost able to generate that sense of light because of understanding and recognizing what that energetic higher purpose is. Now, for a lot of that energy today, that may be feeling a little bit more difficult. We've been seeing that has been a bit of a hurdle this week, right? Because that's a lot of that sense of not necessarily being able to generate it from outside the self. It's almost creating that sense of having to generate it within. But we see even now that there's something about that has a lot of that energy of compassion and restoration that is occurring in the process. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, we were identifying and recognizing that for a lot of that energy, facilitating through some kind of energetic conflict that felt very similar to the energy that we experienced during the eclipse cycle, feeling a lot of that difficulty, navigating a lot of that energetic hurdle, if you will. Potentially even feeling something or going through something that would have created that same volatility that we experienced just about a month ago, that potentially even would have led to the possible separation, because we saw a lot of energy, not sure if they were going to be able to navigate through that. That ability of navigating through a difficulty and being able to apply the effort and energy of the work that you've set forth. We see even now that for a lot of that energy doing so, it feels restorative. It feels like there's that sense of relief because the identification point is understanding that you're breaking one's own unhealthy energetic cycles, right? We were identifying, this has been the work of like the last few weeks. We see even now that a lot of the energy coming into divine union, putting that work into practice, right? Building upon those points of success. We see even now that that's that moment that feels restorative because the energy is, again, not looking for the outside validation, but identifying and recognizing the changes within wherein they're prioritizing the energetic connection. And so we see even now, if there was any kind of conflict that was occurring there, being able to come into that space of pacification, prioritizing the energetic piece of the energetic connection. We see even now that for a lot of that energy, it feels restorative because it is the identification of being able to see the progress that you've been making as it relates to resolving through difficulties or conflicts. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, in separation right now, a lot of this energy in separation, working through, having a lot of these breakthroughs, as it were. I'm identifying even now that for a lot of this energy in separation, having that sense of energy around you that feels like it's in alignment to you is creating a lot of healing and catharsis at this moment. That recognition and the prioritization of the integrity and value of the energetic connections. I see even now, it feels like a lot of that validation as it relates to where one is prioritizing and what one is prioritizing. Because I keep seeing that there are a lot of new energetic connections that are potentially forming right now in separation. And whatever these connections are, they feel energetically restorative because there seems to be a lot of alignment in relationality to what the manifestation goals are. Continuing to get clarification, center card in our 5-card spread for today. We have here our Knight of Cups in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy, this is going to be having a different impact, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For a lot of the feminine energy this week, we've been seeing a lot of these cards have been in their deficit. Feminine working through a lot of this frustration, working through a lot of that anxiety, working through a lot of that fear, working through a lot of that disappointment. But a lot of that integration that we're effectively seeing at this time, we see even now that for a lot of that feminine energy, that ability of doing so, that ability of acknowledging and recognizing, I almost see that there's a lot of that, I want to say a lot of that work right now, navigating forward in such a way, in relationality to what feels like it's energetically positive. And I keep seeing that there's some massive closure that is occurring right now in partnership, like in separation, as it relates to energetic connections of the past. Like I just see a lot of this energy here moving forward in such a way that there's something about the alignment that they found in the present that is reaffirming their own sense of closure as it relates to the experiences or the energetic connections of the past. Why are we seeing this to a certain extent? Because we're recognizing and identifying that for a lot of the energy right now in separation, that identification point, that work we see that's being facilitated, it feels like there's a lot of compassion there. It feels like there's a lot of conscientiousness. It feels like there's a lot of emotional support that energy and separation is having at this time. And something about that feeling of energetic support that is coming in or pouring in right now in the present context for energy and separation. It is almost, and this is where we see that some of that bittersweet sense that is occurring here, and it may be creating a little bit of that sense of being triggered, because it seems to me like it's reminding a lot of the energy of the past, of those situations and circumstances wherein they did not receive energetic compassion, wherein they were not energetically appreciated, wherein they were not having their emotional needs met. Right? So we see even now, like that's a lot of that closure that's occurring. And I can see even now that a lot of that closure, it feels like it's bittersweet, because even in the moment of receiving something, it harkens back to where that deficit began. Now, for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, I see even now that one of the breakthroughs that a lot of this energy is having right now coming into divine union is within the ability of not taking something personally. This is energy coming into divine union that is not experiencing something from the sake of the personal self, but looking and prioritizing the needs of the energetic partnership. And that ability of doing so, working into that energetic integrity, we see even now, even if there was something there that felt similar to the past, The prioritization of navigating with a conscientiousness of the energetic connection. I see even now that's where a lot of this shift is occurring for the energy coming into divine union, because it's changing their perspective in relationality to what feels like an energetic victory, right? Because that sense or that space of being able to recognize and identify the prioritization of keeping the restoration of partnership integral. This is a lot of the energy that's almost changing their own perspective, both in relationality to how they navigate conflict within partnership, but also as to what they feel or see as a point of energetic success. So we see that that's a lot of that benchmark that's occurring right now, because the energy coming into divine union is almost doing that work, setting aside the immediate needs of the self for the sake and the energetic benefit of those that they're in partnership with. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, so much of this work that we're effectively identifying that's happening at this moment, I'm just seeing and recognizing that this work, it feels fundamental, because this is more of that work that we described about being able to pull something out of the self, that one self, that you, your own personal self, isn't even feeling, right? That's what love brings us. That's what love gives us. That the gift of love allows us to generate things out of thin air, because when we're navigating that space of love, when we are navigating that space where we see the energetic need of the counterpart, we don't come towards the counterpart from a place of need. We look and we try to see what they're energetically seeking, and we try to bring that forward within ourselves. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy deep within divine union, that amazingness, like that miracle of transformation is happening within, because it's that ability of, again, bringing something forth within the self that you necessarily aren't even like are already feeling like you are in lack of, for the sake of the energetic counterpart, right? It is the gift that creates itself in the moment that you give it. Continuing to get clarification, the next two cards in our 5-card spread for today are, we have here our Ace of Pentacles in combination with our King of Wands in its upright. Now, a lot of this work that we're effectively seeing right now, masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This isn't energy that is moving into a space of rest. I see a lot of tenacity here. I see a lot of stability. I need to point this out. We've been talking about this heavily in relationality to the readings over the last few days. When you're building into a pathwork of purpose, regardless of what's happening outside the self, it doesn't change your own energetic direction, right? When you're moving with a pathwork of purpose, that is also an act of energetic love. So we see even now that for a lot of the work of the counterparts, the focus and the prioritization point that the counterparts are navigating is building within and creating that sense of energetic stability. And that is the gift that they're creating for one another in the process. And it's allowing that space of being energetically creative. It's allowing that same space of being energetically unconventional, thinking outside the box, doing a lot of that work, because that's a lot of that energy that when things get difficult, they get creative. They don't get devastated. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, I just see that a lot of this energy right now coming into divine union, this is a lot of the energy that is taking different tactics. They're taking different approaches to navigating energetic conflict. And that ability of taking a different approach to navigating a conflict, this isn't energy that's looking through that space of feeling the vindication of being energetically right, but doing that work in terms of identifying what feels right for the context of partnership. We see even now that a lot of that shift that is potentially occurring right now for energy coming into divine union has to do in the valuation point of prioritizing the energetic connection. And even in that experience here, this is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. For masculine energy, I'm just recognizing and identifying that this work that we're seeing, it feels fundamental because it's the masculine looking towards partnership as the thing that is energetically precious, right? And so that sense of being able to hold the energetic connection preciously and prioritizing it, this is what's allowing for a lot of this energy to break through into divine union at this time. And it is allowing for that, and it is allowing for a lot of that communication. This is the amplification of masculine doing something that doesn't feel natural, but also immediately feeling the breakthrough and doing so. Because I told you that a lot of that energy, being able to speak from a place of emotionality, having to do a lot of that work and learning to take an internal process and bring it forward to a certain extent. We see that this is the energy that sees the results of that work paying off. It's not about faking it until you make it. It's about feeling it until you heal it. So for a lot of the energy of the masculine doing so, this is the masculine almost looking at it as process and saying, I was doubtful about this, but now look, it's paying off. It's working, right? While for feminine energy right now, for a lot of the feminine energy deep within divine, coming into divine union, that sense or that space of, and I want to say this, seeing masculine energy prioritizing the energetic connection, seeing that energetic connection, seeing the masculine energy being in that space of facilitating and reprioritizing based on the connection. I see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, it feels restorative. But it's also creating a lot of that closure, if you will, right? Because for a lot of that feminine energy in the moment or modality that masculine is able to do so, that sense or that space, I want to say, and I can see it even now, the feminine recognizing the difference between masculine being resistant to doing that versus masculine that's learning to do something. We keep hitting this like disparity point that is occurring, and that's going to bring us to the energy and separation, right? Like the masculine that says basically I can't do that versus the masculine saying be patient with me. I'm learning how to do something. I'm learning how to communicate in this way. For a lot of that energy and separation now, this is a lot of that benchmark, because I'm seeing even now that for a lot of them, and it is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Now, for a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now, that ability of articulating, like I just keep seeing there's a lot of new connections that are forming at this time. But there's a lot of clarity that I see that the masculine is bringing forth to feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is masculine working to put into practice some of this. And it's hard because I see even now for a lot of that masculine, it feels... I see a lot of that masculine. I'm saying to feminine right now, I don't know what to say, or coming towards feminine in a way and saying, what can I do to energetically support you at this moment? But I want to say even now, there's something about that conscientiousness, right? There's something about that care that is occurring at this time that is feeling energetically supportive to feminine. But it also, I'm seeing now, this is why I see that there's a lot of closure occurring in relationality to past experiences, because I see even now like a lot of that feminine being in that modality of working towards those connections with masculine and having that masculine that's able to build that, or that, look at this, consistency in communication, right? Consistency and communication. There's a lot of that quiet door closure that's occurring right now for feminine, but it's also hard because I see that a lot of the feminine energy and separation right now is reaffirming their own commitment into the relationality between having to feel the masculine that may like have internalized emotions for the feminine versus the masculine that's able to put those into words. So we see even now, again, more of that work of the feminine healing with masculine that says, be patient with me, versus healing from energy of the masculine of the past that said, be patient for me. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Cups in combination with our Lover's card in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Swords in its upright. I'm not surprised to see this card today. We saw that card here yesterday. There's a lot of grief today. Navigating a lot of energetic grief is what we're effectively seeing at this time. It's heavy. It's devastating for both masculine and feminine. But what do we see that occurs in that space of holding space for another's grief? We don't come into that space of informing someone in terms of how one feels. We almost navigate forward in a way that we're conscientious about how someone's energetically feeling. So, I see even now that for a lot of that energy and separation, that mutual feeling of energetic grief being shared is what's forging, like it's reaffirming a lot of those energetic connections at this time. Because I see even now, like there's a lot of that energy that's doing their best to put a bright spin on something, but also in a way, because this is a lot of the energy doing the same work that we see that the energy deep within divine union is doing. And I need to stress this. It's always positive. It's always really positive when we see the energy in separation doing a lot of the same work that the energy is doing within divine union, because that says to me that that alignment is such that a lot of those new energetic connections are coming from a state or space of authenticity, right? Now, for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, the ability of navigating through some kind of energetic difficulty, right? It's not that things are perfect, but again, prioritizing the connection is leading to breakthroughs, right? These are energies that are going through conflict points, potentially even conflict points that are similar to the ones that we saw during the eclipse cycle. But that ability of identifying and coming into a state of easement more quickly, right? These aren't energies that are just disassociating or getting used to the difficulty or burden of an energetic connection. These are energies that are finding new pathwork. They're finding parts of themselves that they didn't know existed. And in that space of doing so, creating that energetic stability from nothing, which brings us into the energy within divine union. Because the energy within divine union are holding on to their own grief. They're holding on to their own fear, right? Are they putting that upon the counterpart? No, they're building into that space of navigating and recognizing and building energetic stability, prioritizing what that is. Because when you're moving with a pathwork of purpose, what's occurring outside of the self is effectively, I mean, it's important, but it's also almost energetically immaterial, right? Because that sense of purpose moves forward in such a way that you have to effectively prioritize. So we see even now a lot of that energy deep within divine union doing their best to build that state of balance and security, even in the moment of feeling some feelings of energetic devastation. Continuing to get clarification between our Lover's card in combination with our Knight of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Wands in its upright. This card should look familiar. I mean, we had our Two of Wands yesterday. So our Three of Wands is here. So this is a progression on the Two of Wands. Now, masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union right now. So much of this work that we're identifying and recognizing at this moment, it has to do with the prioritization. It has to do with laying those energetic plans. It has to do with being able to recognize and identify what those plans are. And so I see a lot of that energy right now, deep within divine union, working into that modality of planning, working into that modality of recognizing and identifying what those plans are. Now, for the energy deep within divine union, that ability of doing so is tantamount to the security or the gift that they give one another in the process of building into those strong energetic connections. While for the energy right now coming into divine union, I'm just seeing that for a lot of that energy coming into divine union, that ability of navigating what would have potentially been a fundamental separation point, right? Going through something that would have created a fundamental separation, but seeing something else emerge from it, seeing that modality of effective clearance, seeing that release or relief in relationality to not building forth or amplifying on energetic devastation, but almost immediately coming into a point of restoration. We see even now that a lot of that energy is recognizing the changes within the self that is creating an ability to prioritize the stability of the energetic connection, and it feels restorative, right? Because a lot of that energy is recognizing that that work, in order to build upon a healthy connection, is starting within the self. While for a lot of this energy right now, in separation, I'm just seeing that for a lot of the energy in separation right now, I'm seeing a lot of holding space, if you will. The best way I can describe what I'm seeing here is that feeling of holding space or giving someone space, right? Sometimes when we're in that, sometimes that ability of doing so, I see a lot of that identification point in energetically respecting another's boundaries to a certain extent. And I see even here that sense of conscientiousness that is occurring. And I wanna point it out like this, because this is really important, because it's coming through as, what does one do with, and we were talking about this earlier this week, what does one do when we come into healthy energetic connections? We understand one another's vulnerabilities, right? We understand what those frailties are. So even here, I see that ability of doing so, that mindfulness of how one navigates or holds space for another's energetic triggers. I see even here that for a lot of that energy, the mindfulness, the care, the conscientiousness that someone is expressing in relationality to how they're holding space for another's sensitivities. It is creating closure in past experiences, particularly if these were situations where someone had those experiences of having a vulnerability and someone just immediately pressing upon it when something was feeling difficult. That sense of navigating into another's energetic soft spot, as opposed to someone in the present being very delicate and gentle, right? So we see even there's a lot of that energy building into a sense of closure in the navigating of another's energetic pain, right? While for masculine, and I see even here, there's a lot of that fundamental closure that may be occurring today. A lot of that separation to a certain extent. And I recognize and identify that a lot of that here has to do with the navigational point of energetic sensitivity. For a lot of that energy coming into divine, continuing to get clarification on this, between our Knight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its upright. May I have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Cups in its reversal. Now we need to talk about this, because this card may look familiar. We had the same exact card yesterday. It was bottom of the deck. Now, masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union right now. in separation, let's talk about the energy in separation first, because that's where we were. For a lot of this energy in separation, I just keep seeing that there's energy in separation right now that's building into fundamental closures of past cycles in relationality to how someone is navigating another's pain, basically. How someone else is navigating another's pain. And that ability of doing so, I just keep seeing that there's something that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation that feels valuable, but at the same time is triggering. Because something about the gift of consideration that someone is holding in relationality to how someone is feeling is making and creating the difference. It's creating the closure of the past experience, especially and particularly if these are new energetic connections that are showing that sense of conscientiousness, showing that sense of delicacy, being able to navigate something emotionally fragile, but in a very I want to say precious way. In the moment that we have someone that holds our pain preciously, the past drifts away. In the moment that we have someone hold our pain preciously, anything that did not hold it as preciously drifts away, because it's that conscientiousness or that recognition point of the emotionality that builds in a sense of generating any emotionality. You can forge an energetic connection in all kinds of ways. Some energetic connections are forged out of trauma. Some energetic connections are forged out of pain. And I see even now like a lot of that energy recognizing the conscientiousness by which someone is navigating and holding their energetic pain delicately, that is healing from any of those energetic connections in the past that were forged out of energetic trauma, forged out of difficulty, forged out of frustration, right? I just see like that's a lot of those cords being cut right now, because that observation and that ability of letting that go, I kind of see this is a lot of the energy in separation that is releasing grief at this time by moving in the directionality of what feels like it is energetically healing. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, a lot of this energy that I'm seeing right now coming into divine union is simply recognizing and identifying. I think the best way to articulate this is in the context of feeling. I see even now that there's some energy coming into divine union that are finding new pathways of healing. And in the moment of doing so, they're looking back on their own past and seeing what those mistakes were, right? Or seeing what those energetic lessons were. Understanding like what those disparities are. So for a lot of that work, doing so, working through that energetic frustration, right? Being able to see those circumstances or those issues that created that grief. I see even now that a lot of that energy is healing in their energetic connections by being more mindful of protecting another from their energetic triggers, and being able to do so. Right? It's not easy, because we talked about the fact that when you do that work, it's not like the abandonment wounds disappear. But when you work in that space that you try to protect others from one's own abandonment wounds, we see even there that is what feels like it's restorational, because this is a lot of that energy that's working, right? Healing comes in many forms. And sometimes the way that we begin to energetically heal is we manage or navigate our healing, especially from those spaces that cause trauma, as protecting others from our own energetic trauma. And this brings us to a lot of that energy that's deep within divine union. For a lot of this energy deep within divine union right now, this work that we're recognizing and identifying, this is the gift that we see that the energy and the counterparts is providing to one another at this moment. Because that ability of generating something from within that you yourself aren't even energetically feeling, but in the moment that you give it forth, it exists. We see even now, like a lot of that energy feels like they're creating that stability out of thin air, because that is something that, again, they're able to create not for themselves, but for the energetic connection. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Pentacles in combination with our King of Wands in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Hanged Man in its upright. So I just want to say that I see that a lot of this energy right now, a lot of this energy deep within divine union, not allowing this to be a moment of energetic devastation, but allowing it to be a space of creativity, working into that context, building forth in such a way of being energetically creative to a certain extent. I see even here that for so much of that energy, being able to do so is creating that space of being, like I said, thinking out, taking a different perspective, thinking outside of the box, looking at things in different ways. And this ability of doing so, this is how the energy is navigating forward, particularly in relationality to that pathwork of purpose. Because, as we said, when you're building into a pathwork of purpose, you don't necessarily, you don't change your energetic direction depending on what's happening outside around you. You get energetically creative in terms of how you're going to get there. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, for a lot of this energy coming into divine union right now, this is, I got to say this, there's a lot of energy coming into divine union that was trying to do something in a way that they hadn't done it before, and potentially even feeling a little doubtful in the process, right? We just recognized that there was some energy feeling a little doubtful in the process of that. But what we're identifying is, for a lot of that energy, working through that doubt, doing something in a different way, and then after doing it, feeling the vitality of something working. Like this is a lot of that, like putting the cart before the horse to a certain extent, because this is the energy that recognizes and identifies that when you do something a different way and you do something outside of one's own comfort zone, you suddenly build and develop a different perspective on something that changes everything. So a lot of that adaptability that we see right now, a lot of that energy feels like it is the change in relationality to what feels like, I want to say, what feels like a prioritization point. This is an energy that goes through conflicts and then feels proud of themselves if they feel like they've won in connection with a counterpart. Because when you're with a counterpart, the prioritization of the partnership is the energetic gift. So we see even now, like a lot of that change of perspective is what is allowing these energies to move deeper into connection. Simply and particularly because this is the energy that has recognized and understood what that valuation point is. Now, continuing to get clarification here between our Nine of Swords in its upright in combination with our Three of Wands in its upright. May I have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Swords in its upright. This is energetically difficult. Like we're going to see this even now for masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union. There's a lot of this feeling of frustration, navigating through a lot of those feelings of energetic frustration. But what did we say that the energy does deep within divine union? When you're feeling energetically frustrated and you're prioritizing energetic connection, you don't allow that frustration to supersede one's own direction. One doesn't allow the frustration to supersede beyond one's own sense of purpose. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, being able to navigate forward in such a way is experiencing the feeling of energetic frustration, but not letting it move your own perspective, not allowing it to shift one's own sense of purpose. So for the energy coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now has to do specifically with the ability of identifying and recognizing what those energetic hurdles are. Because I just keep seeing that something about this, for some of the energy coming into divine union, navigating a conflict point that felt similar to something that we experienced during the eclipse cycle. And in the space of potentially having felt like that was a limitation, I see that a lot of that energy is navigating forward from a place of clarity, potentially even articulating and pointing out to one another like what those non-productive tendencies are. What those, like, I almost see like a lot of that, like looking at something and identifying and recognizing what one can do better next time, right? And for a lot of this energy, being able to articulate upon their shortcomings. If this is energy that is articulating upon the shortcomings and how they're trying to do something, this is a lot of the energy that's reaffirming to one another that there's no trying, there's just doing. Because trying, saying, I want to do it better next time, like a lot of that energy saying you're qualifying something that you're already doing, right? So that's the energy that feels that valuation point and almost probably potentially comes to one another with a sense of reassurance, because that's that sense of saying that there's no trying in that. This is the energy that says, I see that it's not that you're trying, you're actively doing, and you're just trying to qualify something that you wish you could be better at. While continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, for a lot of this energy and separation, I just see that a lot of this energy and separation is receiving something in the new energetic connections that is making it almost impossible to be able to go back to the past. Because again, if these are modalities wherein someone is navigating another person's pain with a sense of compassion, with a sense of delicacy, with a sense of care, I just recognize and identify that it's giving a lot of clarity to a past energetic experience. And it may feel triggering to some of the energy experiencing this in separation. But I see that that's the energy that's feeling triggered because they're seeing something in a way that they couldn't see it before, because they're receiving what they wish that they had received in the past, in those circumstances or experiences. So a lot of those energetic triggers that are like coming through today, but I'm just identifying that for a lot of that energy, facilitating and recognizing, being given something in a moment that feels like it's restorative, is closing the door on anything that feels like it would have just provocated from the past. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Wands in its upright in combination with our Two of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our World card in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy in separation, I see a lot of this energy right now in separation. How do I describe this? Working like the focal point today is balance. I just see it. The focal point today is balance, and fundamentally working on something to a certain extent and creating some sense of balance here. I just see that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, that ability of doing so to a certain extent, this is effectively what the prioritization point is for a lot of that energy in separation. And that feeling of creating imbalance within the self, I see even now, this is what's allowing for a lot of clearing right now. I just see a lot of energy right now moving in such a way of creating closure at this moment in separation, in that even in a moment of navigating grief, because something about the way that others are holding that grief right now is validating the directionality through which one is proceeding forward. So I see even now a lot of new like a lot of transformation that's happening right now in separation, and a lot of this energy moving forward and feeling a lot of confidence moving forward, while also feeling a lot of, there's some kind of affirmation here or something about, I just keep seeing something about the way someone handles or navigates grief today that either fundamentally opens new doors or closes old ones, right? It's almost like it's very much there. Now, for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, a lot of that energy coming into divine union, I just keep seeing that this is the energy that is feeling like that sense that they're creating balance within the partnership. And that balance is one, it doesn't mean that the partnership itself doesn't have its own energetic challenges. But that ability of being able to prioritize, that ability of being able to heal from those energetic conflicts with a sense of easement. This is a lot of that energy that is appreciative of how far they've come and appreciating each other for how far they've come, specifically and particularly because the energy looks at the partnership like a work in progress. And a work in progress means that there's always the ability to improve upon something, so long as one is mindful of what it is that you're setting your focus and your determination points upon. While for a lot of the energy deep within divine union right now, we're back into the same message that we saw for the energy in separation. The gift that the counterparts are creating for one another is identifying and recognizing what that balance is. And that ability of doing so, working fundamentally on creating balance. These are energies deep within divine union right now that might not necessarily feel like they have that balance within the self, but it's in the moment that they have to bring it forth for another that they're able to find it. Continuing to get clarification between our Two of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Hangman in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union. Like, this is a lot of that navigating the internal conflict, right? We just see this here. A lot of this energy here. Working through that frustration point. You know, I can even see it here. The gift that we have in partnership, the gift that we give the counterpart is one where we don't exacerbate our own frustration. We don't bring it forth, right? These are not energies that project their frustration out on those around them. This is a lot of that energy. I want to say, look, I actually see this energy finding creative places to put that frustration. Finding creative spaces to allow that frustration to speak, or like to articulate. Because I just keep seeing that here. Like, a lot of that feeling is channeling that into a space that it feels like it's energetically productive. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, I just see that a lot of this energy is the same exact feeling, the ability of navigating what may have felt energetically frustrating, but being able to move it into something that feels like it's productive. This is a lot of that energy that's recognizing that ability of restoring the energetic connection because of the way that they're navigating their own frustration. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, This is a lot of the energy in separation, almost saying, like, whatever you need, even if you need to let it out. like whatever you need, even if you need to let it out. Like, that ability of almost saying to someone, like, I'm here in whatever way feels like it is productive, even if you just need someone to energetically vent to. I see that a lot of that gift that's occurring right now for a lot of the energy in separation is potentially coming into that space of being able to articulate one's own frustration to a new energetic connection, and someone not taking it personally because there's the recognition of being in energetic alignment, right? When we're navigating, when we're in energetic alignment and we express our frustration, we don't take it personally because we don't feel like it's directed towards us. So we see that a lot of that energy right now is feeling the relief in those new energetic connections, potentially even recognizing the feeling that in a past connection, something about doing so would not feel like it was energetically productive. It would have been something that would have created more of a sense of conflict, right? That's what I mean about some of this closure, even that space of being able to vent something. I see someone apologizing and someone saying, you don't have anything to apologize for, right? Like that's a lot of that energy that's, again, feminine, potentially healing from those places of masculine, new masculine energy, looking to feminine and saying, why do you feel like you need to apologize for your feelings? Masculine looking towards apologizing to feminine, saying like, and feminine saying to masculine, you know, it's okay. I don't need your energetic emotional, I don't need the emotional support here. I can almost see the masculine like coming into the feminine in a way of being able to hold space for them. And that in itself is the masculine being energetically restored, because this is the feminine in separation, being very prescriptive in terms of telling the masculine what they need at this time. So we see even now that both of those energies are effectively healing in separation because there's a lot of that energetic alignment that's occurring there. Continuing to get clarification between our Eight of Swords in its upright in combination with our World card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. I just see a lot of this energy is like letting it out, like just letting it out. Welcome to Scorpio season. Better out than in. like, welcome to Scorpio season. Better out than in. I just see a lot of that work effectively being facilitated at this time. And it feels, I want to say, it feels cathartic. It feels liberating. I see a lot of that energy. And there's something, I want to say something about the authenticity of being able to be authentic in a new energetic connection that feels like it's validating the alignment that someone is receiving in separation as it relates to a new energetic connection. Because something about that is looking at the past and saying something about that past context being like, I couldn't be that authentic in that connection. It wouldn't be something that would have been energetically received well. It would have been something where someone would have taken it personally. It would have been something where someone would have allowed that to create a state of them being energetically, emotionally volatile, right? So I see even now there's something about the expression of how one is feeling and feeling that alignment in separation that is building into a validation point in terms of at least being where you are and feeling supported in what you're feeling in relationality to what you're letting go of from the past, where it made you feel like something about how you felt would have been an energetic problem. Continuing to get clarification here for a lot of this energy coming into divine union. This is the energy that focused, prioritized, said to themselves, finding new pathwork, recognizing and identifying and saying to themselves, being able to identify what that is, being able to prioritize the energetic connection. This is energy that is finding things within themselves that they didn't know existed, because this is the energy that is challenging themselves to be in partnership and immediately rising to that energetic challenge. And it's difficult, right? It's difficult. It's hard work. And the energy feels like they're stumbling in the process of doing so. This is the energy that questions themselves along the way. But that ability of doing so, that ability of recognizing and saying to one another, I'm not good at this, right? The energy saying, you don't need to be good at this. You just need to be trying. Like a lot of this energy is healing because they feel like they're learning how to do something together. And that brings us to the energy deep within divine union. And this is the energy that, again, is articulating and saying to one another, whatever it takes. When you're building into a pathwork of purpose, What's happening outside the self is immaterial. When you're building into a pathwork of purpose, the environment that you find oneself in is immaterial to a certain extent, because all it takes is whatever it takes. So for a lot of that energy, being able to recognize and identify that, this is a lot of that energy that's working foundationally on building that sense of balance within partnership, and coming into that space of calibrating and being able to find things within the self that they did not know were there. Because when the energy says whatever it takes is all it takes, this is the energy that speaks to the self in the process. And in that sense of going within the self to find what is needed for the counterpart, you discover yourself as well. Continuing to get clarification between our World card in combination with our Seven of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Four of Wands. What is that energy doing? What is that energy with deep within divine union doing as they're navigating through their own despair? As they're navigating through their own despair within the self, and they see the fact that the counterpart is also in that space of navigating through despair. What are they rifling through within the self to find? Hope. Hope. Right? And that's the hope that we might not necessarily often be able to generate within ourselves, but when we see the fact that the energetic counterpart is in the space that they are also in the deficit, that is when we're able to go within ourselves and find something that we did not know was there. And in the moment that we present it forward to the counterpart, we ourselves feel it too. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, being able to do that work, digging into the darkness of the self, digging into the space that you feel is dark, and then bringing that light up, bringing that energetic hope forward. We see even now that a lot of that energy doing so, this is building into that sense of, again, holding that focus and allowing that, again, allowing that sense of purpose, allowing that energetic vision to guide you forward during this time. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, that ability of prioritizing the energetic connection becomes the map, right? This is the energy that doesn't feel that sense of having to protect the self from the energetic connection. This is a lot of that energy that's doing that work and taking all of that effort and taking all of that energy, being able to put it forward. And this is a lot of that energy that is looking at conflict, coming into partnership, not so much as a sense of validation, not feeling the victory and being energetically right, but that ability of building towards what feels like it's mutually in alignment. We see even now that for a lot of that energy, being able to do so is creating new points of restoration, because the perception that is changing for a lot of that energy coming into divine union has to do with what the prioritization is, or what the pathwork is. Being able to keep that focus, being able to keep one's own perspective in relationality to what feels like it is vital and important. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, I see even now there's something about the ability to be one's own authentic self, to be able to articulate and express that, and feeling that sense of alignment by those around you that are holding space for you as you do so. It's creating that sense of focus. It's creating that sense of realignment, because this is the energy that is, again, feeling restorative, not so much in what is outside the self, but feeling restorative in the recognition point of feeling like you're moving in the right direction, or being in the right location proximally on your own pathwork. That sense or that space of feeling energetically reaffirmed by being one's own authentic self and being held within that embrace. Final card for today's spread between, we've got double fours here, our Four of Pentacles in its reversal, in combination with our Four of Wands in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Wands in its upright. This is the same card that we closed our reading with yesterday. The same exact card that we closed our reading with yesterday. So a lot of communication here, a lot of that articulation, a lot of that work in relationality to facilitating that path work. It's difficult, is what we're seeing here. There's a lot, I'm just seeing that a lot of this work right here, that ability of being able to, I want to say, authentically communicate today. There's a lot, I want to say, there's a lot of emotionality connected to the expression in relationality to how one is feeling. And for a lot of this, a lot of energy and separation right now, I just hear a lot of new doors opening and a lot of doors closing. Like a lot of that work in relationality to facilitating what feels energetically productive versus what feels energetically frustrating. And it's more, I want to say, it's more of this same message that we're seeing. And it has to do with how one is holding space for another person's emotions. There's something about that here, that either new doors are opening or very fundamental doors are shutting in relationality to feeling that sense of affirmation in terms of, and for masculine and feminine, it's different right now. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because I'm seeing even now that, and we have to talk about this, Scorpio season, a lot of that heightened sensitivity. So for a lot of the, I want to say a lot of the masculine energy right now, that ability of navigating forward, and I see even now a lot of those energetic connections, feeling that sense of integration while in separation, having a lot of that work. This is a lot of the masculine energy that is building forth towards feminine in such a way that it feels like that open expression, but doing so in a way that I want to say it allows the pathwork of feminine to be their authentic self. And masculine being their authentic self as well. There's a lot of authenticity I see is occurring right now in separation. And even in that space of articulating from a place of authenticity, this is why I see a lot of new energetic connections that are forming. Because that relief or that release of masculine, being able to be their authentic self, and I want to say being very like energetically protective of feminine in the process. I just see that that's creating that space of restoration, particularly for masculine, recognizing feminine energetic connections wherein they hold or they can navigate from a place of strength. I just see a lot of the masculine energy in separation being very appreciative of the strength of new feminine energetic connections. But also the masculine recognizing and identifying that strength is one that they're encouraging via their own ability to balance through their own emotions, right? While for feminine energy and separation right now, I just see a lot of that feminine energy facilitating and working forward in a space of articulating upon their frustrations, but not taking it out on those around them. This is what I mean about like that sense of finding something energetically productive to do with something. Because for a lot of that energy right now doing so, it feels restorational. But I also see that there could be a lot of feminine energy right now closing some doors today, potentially in relationality to the past, because I'm just seeing even now that something about how one is holding grief is giving you all the articulation or affirmation you need in relationality to what energetic connections feel like they're supportive versus what are ones that feel like they're just in that space of amplifying some kind of feeling of pain. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, I'm just seeing and recognizing that a lot of this work, this is the energy that is seeing the breakthroughs as it relates to the changes that they've made in terms of how to navigate conflict in partnership. It's not easy, but I'm also seeing that this is the energy that's feeling the result of that work paying off. And a lot of that feels like that affirmation of being able, being appreciative of how strong one is, because this is the energy that is identifying and starting to feel a lot of that gift that we find for the energy deep within divine union, which is when you prioritize an energetic connection, you'll find parts of yourself that you never expected or you didn't know were there, specifically and particularly because this is the energy within divine union that prioritizes the stability that they're creating for one another along the way. And so we see even there's a lot of that energy that is continuing forward on that pathwork of purpose, come what may. It's not about if, it's just about how. And so a lot of those conversations about how are arising today, because that's a lot of that energy that isn't internalizing an external problem, but they are being very creative in the face of those hurdles. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is, we have here our Seven of Pentacles in its reversal. So just a reminder today, there's a Scorpio season is always demarcated by a lot of sensitivity, right? Like a lot of that sense of sensitivity or feeling that heightened sensitivity. Be very conscientious with how you are articulating today, because I think that we talked a lot about this. There's an ability to be very snappy. There's an ability to be very snappy during Scorpio season, right? We got that scorpionic sting. So make sure that you're facilitating communication in such a way that you aren't being reactive. You're being very energetically intentional, because even navigating that right now, and that's happening across all of the frequencies, a little bit of that shortness, a little bit of that frustration, it requires a sense of being able to use it towards productive purpose. Don't let it create unnecessary hurdles to a certain extent. Right? Because I see even now that something about that, that volatility, as long as you're being intentional, you can move it into something that feels affirming instead of energetically reactive. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings for the day. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the Lover's card. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, November 13th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Chariot card. If you would like to become a part of our class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access and entry into each month's live classes. You will also have access to the full repository and course materials of our previous classes. So if you've missed anything prior, you've got ample opportunity to catch up. You don't need to catch up on all of those classes. I will be giving a recap in each class on what we studied thus far, but those materials are there for you to receive as a part of your membership. You will also, if you decide to become a founding member, if you not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a complimentary mentorship class with me, wherein we will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So I want to thank you if you're already joining us there, and I look forward to potentially seeing you at our next class. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my TikTok, I would encourage you, to my Substack. Also, if you are a subscriber here on TikTok, make sure that you head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel, because on top, if you go over to our perks section, you will find a coupon code that will give you an additional discount to that Substack subscription. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings and services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my full in-person event and live schedule online. I also post our giveaways there. Congratulations to our October giveaway winner. We've announced it over on Substack. We are now doing our November giveaway. If you would like to potentially win a free tarot reading with me, all you need to do is head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that travel survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway. But if you would like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I'll be gifting a reading not only to the person that wins, but also to the person that referred them. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These can be focused on whatever area of personal growth or spiritual development you are most interested in learning about. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series. That is 4 45-minute classes, weekly or bi-weekly, as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, weekly or bi-weekly, as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your own personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much today for being here and receiving these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.